Donald sniffle.
You hear that? It's picking up somebody sniffing here. I think it's her sniffs.
To the Hillary shimmy.
Woo, okay.
SNL's debate was like the real one, but on steroids. The real Donald kept interrupting.
Supported the invasion of Iraq.
Wrong.
That is absolutely
wrong.
Proved over and over again.
Wrong.
He actually...
While Alec Baldwin, in his debut as Trump, did more than just wrong, Hillary.
Unfit to be commander-in-chief.
Wrong.
He is a bully.
Shut up.
He started, means he's either not that rich,
Wrong.
not that charitable,
Wrong.
or he's never paid taxes in his life.
Warmer.
The reviews for Alec Baldwin's first ever Trump impression were, in the Donald's words,
the best.
Critics said Baldwin was spot on, perfect, totally nailed Trump. On his show 30 Rock, he once tried to nail Nixon.
It's purgatory, Tracy.
Richard Nixon?
Kate McKinnon as Hillary coughed her way on stage, then paid homage to the late Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka. The real Trump waited until after the debate to complain about his microphone.
And they also gave me a defective mic. Did you notice that?
The SNL writers noticed.
She broke it with Obama. She and Obama stole my microphone. They took it to Kenya. They took my microphone to Kenya and they broke it, and now it's broken.
Secretary Clinton, what do you think about that?
I think I'm going to be president.
SNL picked some low-hanging fruit mocking Trump's pronunciation.
They're going to China.
China, 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 China.
Alec Baldwin's Trump was like a bull in a china shop.
It's pronounced China.
Jeannie Mo, CNN.
China.
New York.
The important issue.
And thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you back here tomorrow night. AC 360 starts now.
And good evening. Thanks for joining us. If you are looking for a week that could decide the election, get ready. And if you're still reeling from last week, get ready for more. Our breaking news tonight, new CNN polling that shows just how much ground Donald Trump, who's speaking shortly tonight in Colorado, has actually lost since the debate a week ago. And that is only partially factoring Saturday's New York Times report that he might have avoided paying income taxes for the last 18 years after declaring nearly $1 billion in business losses back in 1995. He's been talking about it today, expected to talk about it again tonight. His surrogates have also been talking about Trump and his taxes, calling him a genius. Hillary Clinton certainly is talking about it as well, but using somewhat different terms. Trump also spoke out on veterans and suicide. That, too, has touched off some controversy. NBA champ LeBron James is even weighing in on the race now. New York's Attorney General is taking action against the Trump Foundation. Mike Pence and Tim Kaine have been prepping for tomorrow's vice presidential debate, with the next presidential face-off, which I'll be co-moderating, now just 6 days away. A strong week, big night. CNN's Jason Carroll starts it all off for us.
Donald Trump trying to turn the tables on the tax issue.
My understanding of the tax code gave me a tremendous advantage over those who didn't have a clue about it, including many of my competitors who lost everything they had, never to be heard from again. They were never heard from again.
Trump's $916 million loss on his 1995 returns, detailed in the New York Times, means he could have avoided paying any federal income tax for nearly 2 decades. Hillary Clinton seized on it today, campaigning in Ohio.
While millions of American families, including mine and yours, were working hard, paying our fair share, it seems he was contributing nothing to our nation.
Trump and his campaign not disputing the authenticity of the tax returns. Instead, the GOP nominee says he took advantage of the laws to make his company stronger.
As a businessman and real estate developer, I have legally used the tax laws to my benefit and to the benefit of my company, my investors, and my employees. I mean, honestly, I have brilliantly used those laws. I have often said on the campaign trail that I have a fiduciary responsibility to pay no more tax than is legally required.
Trump also accusing Clinton of getting rich by selling favors and access.
Well, I made my money as a very successful private business person, following the law all the way. Hillary Clinton made her money as a corrupt public official, breaking the law and putting her government office up for sale.
Trump surrogates rushing to his defense over the weekend.
And the genius of Donald Trump has been to make sure that he follows the law, which is exactly what he's done.
Amid the fallout over his tax returns, Trump today is facing new criticism after appearing to suggest that some veterans with PTSD lack strength.
When people come back from war and combat and they see things that maybe a lot of the folks in this room have seen many times over, and you're strong and you can handle it, but a lot of people can't handle it.
The Trump campaign says the remark was taken out of context and insists Trump respects the service and sacrifice of military veterans.
Jason Carroll joins us now from the Trump event. So the New York Attorney General today announced a notice of violation to Donald Trump's charitable foundation. What's the latest on that?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, optics here are important. Donald Trump, as you can see here, has just now taken the podium, Anderson, but even before he did that, he was at the top of this arena filled with thousands of people. He was met by thunderous applause like you're hearing now. Hard to believe if you're looking at these people that he's facing any criticism. Theatrics, obviously very important to Donald Trump, but so are the facts. And the fact is that the state attorney general in New York basically ordered a cease and desist for his foundation to basically stop fundraising because they didn't file the proper paperwork that charities need to do in the state. Basically, going forward now, the foundation has 15 days to provide that proper paperwork, Anderson, or they could be looking at fraud changes. And it's really ironic because, as you know, Donald Trump was very critical of the Clinton Foundation. Now his foundation under scrutiny as well. Anderson.
All right, Jason Carroll. Jason, thanks very much. More now on the new polling from CNN, ORC, and later from others, and what appears to be movement for both candidates, whether in battleground states or among key groups of voters that neither candidate can take lightly. The bottom line, CNN's Tom Foreman, a busy man tonight. He joins us now. So a lot of new polls out today. Run them down for us. What can you tell us?
In one sentence, Anderson, it was a great week for Hillary Clinton. Look at this latest CNN ORC number. Clinton is now at 47%, 5 ticks up from Trump here. She was 2 ticks behind him a month ago. He's down here at 42%. Johnson and Stein, 7 and 2% accordingly, if you're still looking for alternatives in this race. What is making a difference here? She is succeeding with certain demographics out there in a big way. For example, look at what's happening with the male vote. She's at 40%. He's at 45%. So yes, he's still ahead with male voters, but he was a lot more ahead a month ago. She's closing that gap, and of course with women over here still strong, 53% for her, only 40% for him. Trump is being hurt by this tax issue. There's just no doubt about it. Almost 3/4 of the people we polled said he needs to release his tax returns, and more than half of the people we asked said the fact he's not releasing it shows he does have something to hide. And lastly, Trump said he was going to make a big surge out there for minority voters. He went to African-American churches and into the black community, saying he could win them over to his side. Not yet. Look at that. 95% still going for Clinton in the African-American community, only 5% for Trump, Anderson.
The votes obviously are going to happen state by state on Election Day. Is there an indication of how this might affect the electoral race?
Yeah, the electoral map is really what matters. Remember that, and this is our projection map from here at CNN. Yeah, there's always a lot more red on it, but when you look at the blue states, which have big populations and big electoral counts, if Hillary Clinton right now wins all of the blue states and all of those that are lightly tilted blue this way, like Colorado out here, if she wins all of those states, that's it. She's won the election. Donald Trump would have to win all of the red states, all of the states that are a little bit red, all of the yellow states, and he's going to have to tip one of those light blue states into his corner. It's not impossible, but that's the challenge in front of him right now, and he's got some work in front of him. By the way, part of the thing that's making a difference here is the enthusiasm is changing. Hillary Clinton's enthusiasm gap has been really anemic. You saw that cheering a moment ago with Donald Trump. His supporters really like him, but hers are beginning to get really behind her more. She's up to 50% now. He's at 56%. But Anderson, I do want to say there is one number here that has come up time and time and time again in some form that really ought to worry both parties. Look at this. The unfavorable ratings. After everything we've been through, and even though people are choosing candidates, still most people in this country maintain unfavorable opinions of both of these candidates and may have a hard time seeing either one take the oath in January. Anderson.
All right, Tom, thanks very much. As you can see, Donald Trump just getting started there in Loveland, Colorado. We're going to be monitoring what he says is going to bring you any news he makes, if and when he makes it, particularly if he talks about taxes, which has obviously been a big story the last 24, 48 hours. Let's bring in CNN senior political analyst David Gergen, CNN political analyst and USA Today political columnist Kirsten Powers, and Molly Ball, political writer for The Atlantic. Bad news for Donald Trump just the last couple of days, obviously. Anything he can do at this point to turn around? I mean, there's still a couple of weeks to go.
Well, I mean, I think one of his biggest problems, obviously, is this tax story. So the momentum's already sort of moving against him. And I think most Americans probably don't begrudge people for using tax loopholes. If you're a Warren Buffett, for example, who's come out and said, I pay less than my secretary pays, that's wrong. We need to change the laws. And so Trump has started saying that. The problem is he got caught versus he came out and he released the information. And so, like in the poll showing...
He did from the beginning always say, I try to pay as little as possible.
Right, but I don't think people quite understood the extent to how little he was paying.
When you actually see the dollars.
Yeah, well, if he had come out and said, I didn't pay any taxes and, and really disclosed everything, I think it would be different than now it sort of feels like people are saying, what else is there?
Right. Molly, I mean, his argument that, he knows the tax codes, he's been able to take advantage of what were legal loopholes. He's the one to fix it. Do you think people buy that?
Well, I think Kirsten's right that it's worse as a post hoc explanation than it would have been if this was the explanation he was giving all along. Now, he has said, I thought he gave a pretty good explanation today when he'd had several days to formulate the talking points. The problem was that he couldn't come up with that explanation on Saturday when this was first coming out, and his campaign stumbled and flailed around and seemed to admit to several different unfavorable things. But, if he had been saying all along, folks, the real scandal is the tax code, and here's what I'm going to do, this might be more believable. Instead, it's obviously an explanation for something that he didn't want to come out, and for good reason, because it offends people's notion of basic fairness.
David, I mean, you work for Gerald Ford, who inherited the presidency from Nixon, who resigned in disgrace, and yet Nixon released his tax returns while he was under audit. Do you think Donald Trump, does this now force Donald Trump's hand to try to release something or not?
I certainly increases pressure on him, and we'll hear about it in the next two debates, the vice presidential debate and then the one you're going to be anchoring this next week. There's going to be a lot of pressure. I think he's going to resist it and just try to ride it out. But Anderson, what we're seeing, I believe, is all the classic signs of a race that's starting to break decisively for one candidate. It does not mean the race is over. It's still fluid. Who knows what WikiLeaks will actually come up with, and they're out there threatening to come up with something explosive in the incoming hours. Who knows how these debates will go. But if you look at the overall signs, the polls, national polls, the state polls, the sense of lack of coherence among the people who are speaking for Trump, sort of going off the rails. This genius quote, which Hillary properly seized on, what kind of genius loses $1 billion and then one's run for president saying, look how wonderful I am as a business person. So there is a lot here that is moving in one direction. If he's going to turn it around, he needs to do it very, very quickly.
Kirsten, you look at this new CNN poll, and I think it's nearly 8 in 10 Trump supporters in this new CNN poll say it's a civic duty to pay taxes. You would think that doesn't bode well, but that poll was actually taken before the New York Times published this latest story.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not sure, again, I'm not sure if you ask people if somebody is using loopholes that are legal, are you okay with that? I think a large percentage of people would say that's okay. It's just that Trump should have come out in the beginning and, like Molly was saying, and just said, you're not going to believe this. I paid no taxes. This is wrong. I'm going to change this. It's more when you won't release your taxes and it comes out that I think it becomes problematic for him. And so, and again, it just really raises the question of what else is in there, and to the point of, you're such a great businessman, how did you lose all this money?
Well, also, Molly, last week was, by most accounts, not a great week for Donald Trump. I mean, there was this constant attention on the former Miss Universe, a story which probably would have been a one-day story after what happened in the debate. Donald Trump kept reviving, kept talking about it, even tweeting about it late in the morning of Friday morning, and now we're starting another week with yet another story that is taking Donald Trump off from what he wants to talk about.
That's right. And there's a Groundhog Day quality to all of this, right? I mean, I was looking back at some of my stories from 6 months ago, and it was the same, like, can you believe what Trump did? And that he doubled down on it, and that he keeps wading into these controversies. In a sense, you know, that week or 2 week long period we had where the story was really about Hillary Clinton and where she was falling behind, that was the anomaly. It's Trump who has this pattern that we've seen over and over again of not being able to let things go, being knocked off message and not being able to change the subject and doubling down on whatever it is that he's accused of.
Anderson, one other point I think should be made. It's not just about how much taxes he paid. It's also his claim that as a businessman during this period when he was losing all this money, he did good things for investors, good things for companies associated with him. The same New York Times report that helped us understand his taxes in the mid-'90s also pointed out that his investors, they saw their stock go from $35 to 17 cents. His contractors in his various casinos, you know, they got pennies back on the dollars they had been promised. Employees lost their jobs. This was hardly something. The only person who gained anything out of all this bankruptcy and everything was Donald Trump.
A lot more to talk about in our extended coverage tonight, including Donald Trump's past criticisms of what other people pay or don't pay in taxes. He's had a lot to say about it in the past. Later, his new allegations about the state of Hillary Clinton's marriage and the heartburn is giving some Republicans.